So Dead Boy Detectives has officially been canceled at Netflix, with its one and only season dropping on April 25th. It's a bit of a bummer, especially considering the show's long and twisty journey to even make it to the screen. Originally, it got a pilot order at Max back in 2021 and then a series order in 2022. But before it could see the light of day there, it got sold to Netflix in 2023. Why? Well, the word is that the show didn't really fit with the new direction James Gunn and Peter Safran are taking with Max's DC content. The whole thing is kind of wild when you think about it. This series, based on characters created by Neil Gaiman and Matt Wagner, was all set to be a Max original. They were just 2 episodes away from wrapping up filming when the decision came down to shift over to Netflix. And now, after all that, it's already done. Definitely a roller coaster ride for everyone involved. The show stars Jaden Reverie and George Rextrew as Charles Rowland and Edwin Payne, a couple of teenagers who, get killed off unexpectedly. But here's where it gets interesting. In the afterlife, they meet, hit it off, and decide, hey, why not start a detective agency? And that's where the title of both the comics and the show comes from. These ghostly best buds start solving supernatural mysteries, stuff that only they can handle because, well, they're dead. But there's a catch. They're not really supposed to be hanging around in the world of the living. Edwin, in particular, is in a tricky spot. Since he was technically a sacrifice, he's supposed to be chilling in hell. So now, both boys are on the run from the night nurse, who's basically in charge of making sure they reach their final destination. Netflix's decision to cancel Dead Boy Detectives remains a bit of a mystery, but it's likely tied to the usual suspects: viewership numbers, production costs, or a shift in content strategy. It's not the first time Netflix has axed a show with potential, and it probably won't be the last. Was it really that bad, though? Let's look at the numbers. So the show had a pretty decent run. It even made it into Netflix's top 10 English TV charts for a solid 3 weeks after it dropped. It hit its peak at number 2 during the week of April 22nd to 28th, which sounds great, right? But here's the kicker. It only pulled in 3.1 million views in those first 3 days. In its first full week, it slipped to number 3, even though views ticked up to 4.7 million. But then things took a nosedive. By week 3, it was down to 1.8 million views, and then poof, gone from the charts entirely. Now, despite those shaky numbers, critics were actually pretty kind. The show snagged a solid 92% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, which is no small feat. And audiences? They were right there with the critics, giving it a strong 90% score on the platform. All right, so Netflix might have closed the book on Dead Boy Detectives, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's game over for the series or its characters. There are still a few ways this story could continue. Just because Netflix dropped it doesn't mean another streaming service won't swoop in and save the day. I mean, we've seen this happen before, right? HBO Max, Hulu, Amazon Prime, any of these could see the potential and give the show a new home. So it's not totally out of the question that we'll see Charles and Edwin back in action. Sometimes when a show gets the axe, it doesn't just disappear, it finds new life in other forms. We're talking graphic novels, podcasts, maybe even a film. And given that Dead Boy Detectives has its roots in the comic book world, there's definitely potential for more stories to be told, whether in print or as a cool animated series. Here's the thing. Cancellations can sometimes fire up fans in a big way. And with social media, fans have more power than ever to make their voices heard. Remember how Warrior Nun got resurrected after fans wouldn't stop campaigning? If Dead Boy Detectives builds up enough of a cult following, who knows? A strong enough fan campaign could totally catch the eye of another network or streaming service. Hashtag Save Dead Boy Detectives is already trending, so you know what to do. Sorry to disappoint y'all, but Season 2 was never a sure thing. The showrunners mentioned that the team had a lot of conversations about Season 2, including who they'd want to bring back. The first season even left us hanging with a cliffhanger involving at least 2 cast members. But here's the thing, they never really set a hard goal for how many seasons they wanted to do. Showrunners Steve Yockey and Beth Schwartz didn't have a specific number of seasons in mind. It's more of a case of the week kind of deal, where they could always find new season arcs. Yockey and Schwartz both come from shows that run for 23 episodes a season, so they're used to crafting longer stories. But get this, Yaki knew from the moment they wrote the pilot what the last scene of the show would be. So yeah, they had a direction in mind. But here's the bummer. Fans won't get to see where that direction was headed. All right, so if you're into Dead Boy Detectives and looking for something else to binge, I've got a few recommendations that might just hit the spot. Whether you're into supernatural mysteries or shows with a bit of a darker edge, there's something here for you. Let's dive in. Man, I'm still salty about this one getting canceled. Half Bad was one of those shows that flew way under the radar. Thanks, Netflix. They didn't promote it at all, which is a crime because it was fantastic. The show follows Nathan, the illegitimate son of the world's most dangerous witch, as he tries to figure out who he really is while being hunted by those who fear what he might become. It's intense, gripping, and had so much potential, but it got the axe after just one season. This one throws you right into the thick of things, no hand-holding here. The show centers around Maddie, a high school girl who finds herself stuck in the afterlife with no memory of how she got there. As she navigates this strange limbo, she teams up with other ghostly students to solve the mystery of her death. If you're vibing with the ghostly detective angle, then Lockwood should be next on your list. It's got a similar feel to Dead Boy Detectives, but with a slightly darker edge. The show follows a trio of teenage ghost hunters in a world plagued by deadly spirits. They run a small, scrappy agency that's always on the brink of disaster, but their chemistry and the fantastical elements really make it shine. And yeah, it's another show Netflix decided to cancel after a few seasons. Here's one that's off the wall in the best way possible. This show is wild, quirky, and just plain fun. It's about Dirk Gently, an eccentric detective who believes everything in the universe is interconnected. He's joined by a reluctant sidekick as they solve bizarre and often supernatural cases. It's got a similar vibe to Dead Boy Detectives, though it leans more into the fantastical and weird. Fair warning, though, it got canceled after 2 seasons, so don't expect a tidy ending. If you like Dead Boy Detectives, this one should be right up your alley, especially since it's also based on a Neil Gaiman book. The show follows an angel and a demon who team up to prevent the apocalypse, and along the way you get a mix of humor, heart, and a bit of the supernatural. Plus, it's got canon queer characters and a fantastic dynamic between the leads. It's clever, charming, and totally binge-worthy.
Didn't you have a flaming sword? You did. It was flaming like anything. What happened to it? Lost it already, have you?
Gave it away.
You what?
I gave it away.
Be funny if we both got it wrong, eh? If I did the good thing and you did the bad one.
No. Wouldn't be funny at all.